Chris, can I ask you, do you know what your values are?
Yeah, I've got them on my phone, got them written on my wall. Courage, discipline, honesty, integrity, self-love, faith. I've got this burning, insatiable desire to give impact and leave my gifts on people. Up until recently, I still felt as a sense of I'm giving myself away a little bit. I'm selling myself out there and I'm not putting myself first. Self-love, I think, is a real strong value to have, not in a selfish way. And what I'm finding is that's enabling me to be more confident in myself. Tom Paine, welcome to the Purpose-Led Leadership Podcast, and Steve Ware, welcome back to the Purpose-Led Leadership Podcast. Delighted to have you both on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having us down.
Great to be back. Thank you, mate.
A different setup with having three of us, and I'm excited to get you both on. Tom, let's start with you. Paint us a picture of your journey since school.
From school to now. Okay, so from 16 onwards, I suppose I pretty much had every part-time job you can imagine, from pot washer to paper round to you name it. I came from, I suppose, a background where you just have those core working class values of, you need to be always working and always doing something. So when I was going through school, I was okay academically. I wasn't the brightest, but I certainly wasn't the worst. But I think I fell down by just always working too much. I don't know whether you guys experienced the same with how you were brought up, but it was always this edge to, you've got to be earning money, you've got to be constantly doing something. So yeah, I had an enjoyable upbringing. I went to uni. I studied to be a journalist, which then led me into working in recruitment, which we both worked in recruitment, didn't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
And both actually worked for the same company, didn't we?
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose I meandered through those years from 16 to 23, not really knowing what I wanted to do. And like most people say, who have ever been in recruitment, they fell into this sales world. So yeah, I suppose I would say I'd had a pretty normal upbringing in quite a small working class town in the north of England. Not much to shout about. The values that were instilled in me were, you should always be working and having some money in your back pocket instead of, I suppose, go and get some education. But it's more about experience. And I suppose from that, I pretty much nearly messed my degree up. I ended up getting a third. And having to resit a year, which was shameful really in many respects. I should have done better, but I suppose I was too busy working behind bars and at that point DJing. So yeah, so things, I suppose things really changed for me when I first started working in recruitment, really, and that was from 24. So that kind of I suppose you asked from 16 really to 23. Was just about really finding my feet, and then things changed when I took that leap.
I want to touch on this probably with both of you, actually. I mean, you mentioned something there in your synopsis about always needing to work hard, and men and women work hard all the time. But as men, I think we kind of have a duty and a purpose to like go out and earn the bacon, that kind of stuff. And I want to talk to you about, in plain terms, the difficulty of being a man or being men. I think there's a misconception that we have it easy or easier. I just want to open that out to you both.
Why do you think we have it easier? What do you think that misconception is?
Well, I think there's narrative out there that women are disadvantaged in certain aspects of life, and they are. But I think men are the same as well in different aspects as well. And I think sometimes men can be demonized in the wrong way, or their value can be determined on their job title or what they do or how much money they make. If you're a middle-aged man, for example, and you earn 40, 50 grand, you're not a particularly good catch for a woman. Let's be honest about that. That's the way the society is.
Yeah.
Not to put numbers on it. So I just wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with that, I suppose so how I got into being a career coach, life coach, burnout coach was my own personal experience with burnout from a career in recruitment. So I was doing really well. At one point I had 2 profit centers, totaling £8 million annual turnover with 24 staff and seemingly flying high in many respects. I think I had something like 7 promotions in 8 years at one point.
Right.
So I was doing well. And my next steps would have been either director or set your own recruitment business up. But I had this existential crisis where I was like, shit, what do I don't want to do this anymore. But I've got a mortgage, I've got a car on the drive, I'm paying quite a lot of money for, I've got a baby. And that for me, I had the bravery to put my hand up, and I've got a very supporting, loving wife to say, look, I'm not happy. I need to change. Something isn't right here.
Yeah.
The stress was just overwhelming. The kind of I was suffering from insomnia for a long time as a result of the job and the pressures of the job. Now, so many men will be listening to this going, yeah, I recognise that. But I'm in a position where I'm the main breadwinner, and I can't do anything about it. Now, if you suppress that over a long period of time, number one, is that stress going to turn into burnout, which we know is chronic stress left unmanaged.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if you go one step further, does that lead to depression? So certainly from a male perspective, it's underpinned by this responsibility to be the man and to keep bringing in the money. Like you say, you've got to be earning more than 40, 50 grand a year to attract a partner. But also if you've got kids, you've got to feed them and be the rock. What do you do? Who do I talk to? And this is the problem. Men don't want to show this weakness. To put your hand up and say, I'm stressed out or I'm losing sleep, that shows weakness. To say that I'm depressed, that shows weakness. And I think that narrative for me has to change for men. And it starts with having that conversation, the bravery to have the conversation, which is a lot of the work that I do. I know, Steve, you're involved in this as well.
Yeah.
So that for me would be the issues, really, what I see with men.
Because I see a few points there around the need to go out and earn money. That automatically takes you away from the family unit, the family setup. You're spending less time with your kids, less time with your wife potentially, and it's then it becomes a sort of trap you fall into, because you need to go out and earn the money, but then you're removing yourself away from the nice stuff you have at home as well. And for me, that's where the depression can come in, because you don't feel connected at home necessarily. You don't feel like you're performing in the work environment. And I can see why there's more male suicides, because not just because of that, but it's those kind of conditions. I think that I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not saying that women don't have it, but I'm talking more so around the challenges there, and especially in this day and age with the cost of living as well. I know a lot of people of our age, men and women, but men who are struggling with that whole concept, and they feel trapped in their own lives.
But who do you talk to?
Yeah, and do you talk? It takes a lot of courage, doesn't it? Men. I think most men wait till they literally can't not talk about it to talk about it. That's what I did. Because I mean, how under pressure do you two feel to be the last one to crack?
Oh mate, you put on a mask or a coat of armor, and it's not the done thing to show that weakness, because you're a role model, and
and it's unattractive. You're talking about finding a partner who's the more salary you are, the more attractive you are. Does a woman want a guy who's crying every 5 minutes and crying before she does? And
well, the thing is, I think women, some women, without being too sweeping statement like, portray that they want a vulnerable man, but then when you become a vulnerable man, they're like, I don't want that. I want you to be the strong one. And I think sometimes men don't know where to stand. And I think a good woman or a good man would recognize masculine and feminine energy in their partner as a good thing. And sometimes the woman needs to be stronger than the man, and sometimes the man needs to be stronger than the woman. I don't think it necessarily has to be because we're men, we have to be stronger all the time. I personally disagree with that.
That comes with so much pressure.
I know.
What do you think it's down to? Do you think it is down to, I suppose I'm speaking with my hat on from a career coaching perspective and burnout perspective, and it's usually the job that's the problem, but obviously there's so many other things, isn't there, around what makes you happy? Is it wealth? Is it relationships breaking down? Do you think that can you see that it's actually a career problem in the main, that where there's this kind of, I've lost my almost purpose and like reason for being?
Yeah, I don't know. I think purpose plays a big part, but it's almost as if I think we're educated to get the job, get the picket fence, get the wife, get the car, get the house, get, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then we get that. And all we're doing is having just enough disposable income to pay the bills, maybe go on a holiday. And it's kind of like, and then your job starts to fall down and there's recessions. And it's kind of like, oh, this is going to be my life then. You know, and I think, I'm not saying it's the same for everybody. I think I'm grateful that I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm pleased I'm not in that situation where, you know, everyone's different. But
let me ask you a question, Chris.
Yeah.
You've very publicly talked about your entire life history, right?
Yeah.
Right from being a little kid and parents, lack of parenting and then building up this incredible business and losing it. Where in your list of hardships in life, how much sense of identity, when you built this 25 million pound business and lost it, where did that sit in terms of really knocking you? Was that worse than your mum?
Yeah. Wow. I mean,
how much sense of self did you have invested in that business, and how like
everything? I put my whole sinew, my whole self-worth, my whole soul, my whole life. I correlated the success of my business in my life, and when that was taken away from me, or when I lost it, mate, I can't really describe or try. I just felt absolutely bereft and lost, and like I was a worthless human being. You know, I was a millionaire at 26, 27. I had all the status. I was kind of a celebrity in my own sort of sector, big business, and that was all taken away. And I was watching Judge Judy every day, and you know, not getting out of bed, and for like months, I just felt like my life was over. I felt that my purpose had gone, and I just thought I wouldn't be able to recover from that. So, but when I came back onto LinkedIn and started to build myself up again, it kind of I kind of like realized that I was chasing a false dream anyway. And I said this quite a lot. I got to 10 million, 15 million. Every time I got there, it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But I was associating the level of what people thought of me based on the size of my business. And it was actually quite unhealthy, or very unhealthy for me, actually, to do that.
So second time round, how much sense of self honestly is invested in what you do now, your job?
Well, I think if you met me 10, 15 years ago, you probably wouldn't want to be my friend. I think I'm a different person. I am a different person. I'm a different man. I'm still learning, still growing, still developing, I still make mistakes, but I'm a different person, and I'm invested in the impact that I make. And don't get me wrong, I'd like to earn more money. I'm doing quite well money-wise. I'm building myself back up and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, my wealth is myself, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I'm invested in improving myself, being the best version of myself for other people. Whereas before, so my development, my success is my 15, 20, 25 million. I'm not looking for material things. I'm looking for growth and personal development. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Chris, can I ask you, do you know what your values are?
Yeah, I've got them on my phone, got them written on my wall.
Go on then.
If I try to remember now, put them on the spot. There's 8 of the bloody things.
Written them on this wall.
Bloody hell.
You mentioned one. Was it impact there?
No, well, it's courage, discipline, honesty, integrity, self-love. You put me on the bloody spot now. Discipline, faith, and there's one more that I actually can't remember. But I changed empathy to self-love because I felt that was a missing trick.
Yeah.
Because you might agree, I think that I've got this burning, insatiable desire to give impact and leave my gifts on people. But I feel, up until recently, I still felt as a sense of I'm giving myself away a little bit. I'm selling myself out there, and I'm not putting myself first. Mm-hmm. So the moment self-love, I think, is a real strong value to have, not in a selfish way. And what I'm finding is that's enabling me to be more confident in myself. So they're my values, and I think we touched on it on one of your gigs before, where most of us, and businesses included, they slap their values on the wall or whatever it is, and they can't even spell them. So for me, they're on my phone every day. They're on my whiteboard when I wake up. And I do try my absolute best to base my decisions, my behaviours and my actions on my values.
Yeah, and that's what we would say. A life lived by your values, that should equal success.
Yeah,
whereas
very true.
Previously, what may have happened if we said, what do you value? It would be the car. It would be my 15 million. It would be I've got a business.
Yeah.
And actually those things can be taken away very quickly and they can change, and it's what's left. And your identity is attached to these things that actually, basically come and go, all materials. And this is a problem that most men face. I've just finished a values coaching session with a solutions architect I've been working with for the past 4 months. And he started a process off. He'd been working for the same company for 9 years, burnt out twice before. He started the process off saying, look, I've got a therapist, I'm depressed, and I'm seeing you as my coach to get my future sorted.
Yeah.
In the values session, it was really interesting because he was like, I thought I would say my values would have been achievement and success, my number 1 and 2. But that's not right. His number 1 and 2 were collaboration and making a difference. And the penny dropped when he was like, yeah, if I spend my day job, my everything that I do is an intention on a day-to-day basis around making a difference and contributing to others.
Yeah,
I'm successful.
Yeah, because I think men are conditioned to think that it's not about what women like necessarily, but I was always taught that women like someone who is successful, someone who drives the right car, someone who's got ambition, someone who owns a business, and I think that's true. But I do think actually, what's attractive in men and women is these kind of traits, and I'm pleased that maybe it's the advent of more social media stuff, but I think that you're either authentic or you're not, right? And I see people on LinkedIn and portraying this authenticity, but I think it all comes out in the wash, and I feel that when you do start living your life by your values, then magic does happen, and you start to attract that as well. So I don't know what you guys think about you, Steve, as well. You I think you asked me what my values are. What are your values, and what do you think about that?
I mean, my shift came when I burned out. I kind of burned out my first time in my 20s. And then the shift massively went from, because I was at IBM, I was doing all right, and I was buying designer gear, and I bought a BMW Z3 convertible and thought I can remember one thing, this is one time I really thought I'd made it. So I just picked up this BMW Z3 convertible, which was James Bond's car, I think.
Right, okay. Nice car.
Yeah, really nice car. I was driving it through streets of Southsea, summer's days, had the roof down, and I stopped to let some people cross, tourists, and 2 of them took out a camera and were taking pictures.
Thought you were James Bond.
I thought I was James Bond.
You could pull it off, I reckon, mate.
I can see the likeness now, actually.
But that kind of summed me up at that time. It was like, the car is me, it's an extension of me.
Yeah.
And if I've got this and you haven't got that, that means I'm more attractive to the opposite sex, and it means I'm better than you. But when life kicks you in the bollocks, you realise that car on the drive doesn't mean a thing. That's not. And in fact, I can remember thinking when I first, all those years later, when somebody told me to try mindfulness, and I eventually tried it kind of in secret, I can remember thinking, Andy Puddicombe, the guy who did Headspace, I remember thinking, I will send you all the money I've got. Didn't have loads of money, but I thought, I will send you all the money I've got if you can give me peace again. Because guess what? The car didn't give me peace. The designer jeans didn't give me peace. The nice holidays didn't give me peace. Nothing. I couldn't buy it. You can't buy peace. Peace comes from inside you rather than.
Yeah.
We're all seeking these external things. Like, if I can just get this, if I can just get that. If I can, And I think sometimes it's almost easier in life to die thinking that than to get everything. If you look at the people in Hollywood or anywhere around the world that get everything materialistically and then go, shit, I'm still not happy. Well, now I'm totally screwed. Because now I've got the private jet and 10 houses and 15 cars and every watch, and I'm a VIP everywhere, and I still don't feel peaceful in here. There's still something missing. There's this insatiable sort of thing I'm trying to get, and I can't buy it because I've bought everything else.
So you're saying even now you're still searching for something?
Not so much, I don't think. I think I'm much more content than I used to be. I mean, I watched a great thing on Instagram the other day, and there was a guy saying, in some ways it sounded very depressing because he was going down the whole, really imagine this is your last day on this planet.
Yeah.
Really imagine that. This isn't just some flaky exercise. really imagine that this is going to be the last time you smell a rose. It's going to be the last time you hug your wife. It's going to be the last time you walk your dog. It's going to be the last. And he said, really try and feel that, and then try and live your day like it, because we never do. And the people that do are the ones that have probably experienced hardship, that have really suffered, and then the more they suffered, the more it changes their values. And I'm really glad that I went through the amount of suffering I did, because it changed my values. I was a bit of a dick when I was young.
I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about the word suffering, because I think that, well, I know that my experience of suffering has been quite widespread and quite traumatic, but every time I've suffered suffering, for want of a better term, I've always come out the other side with a massive lesson. Obviously, I've had the abandonment, I've had loads of other stuff that I don't necessarily need to repeat, but fairly recently, I had a really massive kind of heartbreak, actually. And at the time, it felt fucking awful. But it was one of the biggest and best lessons I've ever learned. It really forced me to look at myself. And I've got written down here all my sort of stuff, logic versus emotions. And I think all three of us are quite logical in some of our attributes and our thinking. But I think emotions would always trump logic. When you tune into your emotions, you start to feel this pain and this hurt and all this kind of stuff. I think that darkness brings light. I'm probably not articulating myself very well, but I think that heartbreak, actually, at the time, for 2 or 3 weeks, I was doing so much work on myself, really deep intrusive work. And I come out the other side and I started to really love myself. So
what does that mean? You're doing work on yourself? What?
It means that I was listening. I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was preparing my doing training for Kilimanjaro and doing like 4 or 5 hour walks, but I had my headphones on, doing this really deep podcast stuff about love and how to be loved, because I've never had that. And kind of like, I had this kind of dawn of realization that actually I'm a really, really good guy. It sounds a bit weird. I kind of got to the point where, even though someone had broken my heart, at least I can fucking feel it. At least I can feel that shit. I think some people in this world don't have that luxury, even though it's horrible.
It's too scary to. Like when I first started feeling anxious when I was in my 20s, I didn't want to feel it. Christ, I wanted to get away from it. It's almost an instinct, isn't it? It's almost like you burn your hand in a fire, but you don't put your hand back in there.
No,
like
right.
You learn that hurts, avoid it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's more for men than women, but I think generally speaking, back to sweeping statements, but I think women talk more with their friends, with their mums and parents, whatever, about emotions. And I think men tend to be a bit more shut down. Men don't go down the pub.
Yeah, they're better at handling their emotions. And I think this is the thing. So what your point was kind of saying was that actually emotions are good, even the raw emotions. And I think, it's acknowledging that those emotions are okay to feel, but it's doing something about it. That's the key thing. What is this emotion telling me, even if I'm feeling depressed or low? Where is it guiding me here?
Yeah.
And it's asking yourself those questions. And I think some men, we bring back to the male issue here, is that they don't want to feel the emotion. They don't want to get in tune with what you've just said there. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not even going to feel that. That person hurt me. I'll move on. I'll take it out on somebody else. And that over time, that builds because they're not dealing with their emotions. But really what should happen is you feel the emotions.
Yeah.
And then your action there with the relationship is maybe to go, well, actually, next time, is it somebody different that I should go for that, aligns with my values maybe. And that's the action then that sees you towards getting what you want. But it's basically feel the emotion, accept it, but then go, okay, well, it's there to tell me something and I need to do something here, instead of what so many men do, and they just don't do anything about it.
Let me ask you guys this. So as a percentage of all the men you know, if you rang them up and said, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depressed, whatever, what percentage of them do you think would say, let's talk about it? And what percentage would say, let's go down the pub and have a drink?
Well, I think if you asked me that about a year ago, the friends that I used to hang around with, is probably zero, because all they tended to do was drink and do other stuff, and I've moved away from that kind of stuff. I've now created a different kind of friend. So I think that generally I'm going to challenge it, because I think, I know we're saying that men don't do that, but I actually think there's a lot of men that are more capable of doing this than women. And that sounds a bit controversial, because I think it's a misconception that we say that men aren't in tune with their vulnerable side. I actually think we are, but we don't get the opportunity to do it. And I think sometimes women are just as bad putting the mask on as well. So in answer to your question, not enough is probably the answer.
I think I'll just saying get on with it.
Yeah.
I know you're upset, but you just need to go and get back in there, go to work again, and just
Crack
get on
on.
with it.
Because we're fixers, right? If it's the whole men are from Mars, women are from Venus things. As a man, I like to fix something. Somebody comes to me and says, "This is broken. Can you fix my phone?" Oh yeah, give it to me, and I'll fix it and give it back to you. If they come to me and say, "I'm broken," well, I might not be able to fix you because I can't take that emotion away from you. And I think men struggle to. I think our instinct is to be fixers and to try and. And it works if it's a car or if it's something mechanical. But when it's a complex human being, it's almost a bit scary to.
Yeah, I mean, I think us three are slightly different to the archetypal man, probably. And I don't think that's not a judgment. I think I think we're probably more open than the average man. I think I put a post out only yesterday. That I don't really like small talk. I prefer to have conversations you like this, and for some people that's a turn off, and some men and women don't like that. I think but I'm not going to. I think that what I don't want to do is conform to something that I don't believe in. So, but I think sometimes people do that for the greater good, and they jump on the bandwagon. And they say this, that, and the other. Deep down, they want to go completely the opposite. You know, and I think that's unfortunate. I wouldn't want to live my life like that. Would you?
Absolutely. You know, I think that, you know, we talked before about purpose, didn't we? And, you know, kind of losing purpose, and actually I've been in doing something for such a long period of time that I now don't like it, and it's affecting my mood. I'm feeling depressed. You know, what do you do at that point? You know, and as a man, you know, who can you talk to at that point? I think that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Do you think it's getting better generationally? Do you think the younger men are more open to? I think one thing I've noticed just teaching mindfulness is, slightly sweeping statement again, but the older the person, if we're talking men specifically, the older the man, the more, oh, fuck off, that's woo-woo. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
The younger the man, it's like, well, why wouldn't I look after my mental health?
Absolutely.
I'm going to the gym, I'm trying to eat well, so sign me up.
Yeah.
I mean, if I think about my dad, one of the things my dad said to him about his childhood is he wasn't allowed a teddy bear. So his dad wouldn't let him have a teddy bear.
Right, okay.
Because for girls, it's like, you don't have cuddly things. You're a tough guy. I was allowed them. And it's almost like as the generations come down, we're chipping away a little bit away. I wonder if, you know, wars and stuff are to do with it as well, because, you know, if you've been through World War.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
don't complain about being a bit sad or a bit 100%. Anxious. Do you know what? I was fighting for your bloody freedom.
It's like half of my mates died at war. So let's just get on with it.
So there's that whole
people just wanted to get on with things, didn't they? They didn't want to keep talking about it. So gradually, I think you're right. I think gradually that silent generation, I suppose, is the opposite now, where people are being more open, but I still think there's so many people who don't think they can be truly open and honest about how they feel and what they want to 100%. Do, and they feel trapped. I think that's ultimately it with a lot of men. I feel a lot of men feel trapped. That's the
fear of judgment, and there's a fear of what other people think. I think that's we've all got that, haven't we, to an extent? I think we'd sooner go along with the Joneses or keep up with the Joneses or copy someone else for fear of being who we really are. And I think that's a sad state of affairs, really, in this current society. But I mean, if I knew this is an age-old statement, isn't it? If I knew then what I knew now, but we can't change the clock. But I mean, I've talked about myself being a different person. What about you both? I mean, you talked about being in some scrapes or being in some trouble and stuff like that. I'll ask this question to you both. How do you think that? What's been the biggest difference to you now compared to what you were back then, do you think?
Well, I'll go first. I think looking back, I was really quite insecure. Probably when you first asked me that question, actually, 16 to 23, you know, I used to think, I used to think that people didn't like me. And I think I used to immediately assume that they would have a problem with me or something. And it was just Yeah, no, I know that now, mate. I know that.
Don't tell him on podcast. Not too
I
late.
think you mentioned it before, going on that question of like, actually, your value is self-love.
Yeah.
And I think I've been on that 100%, and actually not, these kind of, I don't know where that comes from, but this feeling of actually somebody's got a problem with me, or somewhere down the line, this person's not going to like me. And it was just based off complete rubbish, really. It's based off, I don't know whether that's a fear that's based off or negative inner chatter. And really, for me, I suppose my confidence changed when I moved to London, 100%, because then I was around people like me, and then I was performing, and it was, there was kind of, the sales aspect, earning money, part of the job, which you've been through as well. And I think there was a real sea change with me where I just started to go, do you know what? I just need to back myself here and be responsible for my own happiness and well-being, and ditch that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose that's really where that shift came in there. Certainly from a career perspective, my experience with burnout, was a massive thing, which turned my world upside down, so.
I know you need to answer the question as well, Steve, but I want to interject with another question as well. I think that your other halves play a key role in your lives as well. And I think sometimes men underestimate the importance of having a good woman by your side as well. I want to talk about how that's helped and affected you as well. Because on the flip side, if you've got the wrong partner, that can have detrimental effects as well. So you've got to answer both questions of that question as well. I don't know if you want to interject.
Well, my partner, Sian, I mean, she's absolutely amazing, in many respects. And she is, so supportive of me. And like I said before, with that burnout episode where you've got this career and everyone looks at you as this recruitment person and you're aspirational. You're the one who's doing really well. And you're all of a sudden going to say, well, actually, I'm rejecting that. I'm not doing well. Yeah. And I suppose what you were alluding to before, which was quite interesting, was do women value money, houses, career, security? I suppose maybe security. I know what Sian loves about me, because she's told me, is that resolve and that resilience of I won't give up. And she finds that, and I suppose but I only know that because she's very clear about that with me. She finds that attractive in me.
That's great.
So, and I suppose that is the challenge for many men, I suppose, in relationships, is they just don't understand who it is that they need to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the question I want to ask you then is, why are you doing what you're doing?
Why am I doing what I'm doing in my business?
In your life, in your business?
So why I do what I do now is because of my experience, because I knew at the time that I needed somebody like me. I needed somebody to speak to.
Got you, right.
And at the time, okay, maybe if I really searched for it on LinkedIn or Google, there was a coach who probably could have helped me. But I just didn't really feel that was available. I think it's really important that, men and women. I coach men and women. I'm not specific around coaching men. Yeah. But the reason why I do it is that I just really hate to see people in jobs that they don't like. And I hate that affects their mental well-being. That's ultimately why I exist. That's my purpose, to enable people to transform their lives through these meaningful conversations.
That's really powerful, man. So you're kind of your own superhero. You're the coach that you've always needed. And by being that person, you're being the best version of yourself, to yourself and to your community as well.
There you go.
Amazing.
Because I bottled it, really. I only left IBM because they made me redundant.
Right.
So I was just, when you were saying that then, I was just reflecting, thinking, if they'd kept me on and I clung to that wreckage as long as I could.
Yeah.
I was desperate to stay there because I'd been there my entire life, didn't know anything else from the age of 18.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, what would it have taken for me to actually have the courage to leave and go, I'm not enjoying this anymore.
Do you reckon you would have done that?
I'm not sure I would, mate, honestly.
Yeah.
And you can talk about, karma and coincidence and stuff that happens in your life. I'm genuinely really, really grateful they did make me redundant, because honestly, it was the greatest thing.
Wow.
And sitting here, I honestly probably would still be working for them if they would have me, which would be a massive shame. Because if I then fast forward to lying on my deathbed, I'd be thinking, why didn't you go and do that? Why didn't you follow your heart? Your head ruled you just so much. It's the chat, isn't it? It's the head saying safe job, corporate, pension, healthcare.
Yeah.
and it's saying don't go out on your own because you won't find any clients, you won't be able to make a living, and your heart's screaming inside saying, please can we do something so that when you get to your deathbed, you can lie back and go, it's a life well lived. That's my test now. So I don't give a crap about cars.
You strike me as someone now who, I'm guessing a little bit, but I'm normally right, not all the time. You're a lot more self-aware, a lot more kind of self-accountable, a lot more honest with yourself. Whereas before, it was a bit like you knew you were kidding yourself, but you did it anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And I knew, and other people knew. And if you look at what happened towards the last 5 years of me at IBM, if not longer, I was already hatching my escape,
right?
But just very gently.
Yeah.
I was bringing mindfulness in there. I was studying at Oxford to find the best teachers and learning my trade, because part of my brain knew, there's sort of 5% of my brain that was saying, come on, we got to go and do something we really love now. And the rest of it was going, no, it's too risky, can't do it.
Isn't it funny? It doesn't matter whether mine's deemed as more traumatic or different or bigger than yours. So your redundancy forced you, I think, to look into yourself and do this. And what happened to me is kind of like that horrible situation. It kind of like, I look back on myself and I can blame situations and circumstances. A lot of it was unfortunate, but I'm also a common denominator here. I think accountability for me and self-awareness has been one of the biggest transformational pieces in my life. Certainly, if you used to ask me the same question I asked you, and I'm still learning that. And I think that also I like the saying, two men looked through the prison bars, one man saw mud, the other saw stars. I think you also get a choice where no matter what's happened to you, you've still got a choice of how you respond to that. I know it's a common saying.
Yeah. That's hard, isn't it? Because how do you choose? That takes a lot of work, I think. If you've spent 2, 3, 4 decades where the mantra in your head is to see the negative and the voice in your head is a negative one and it says you can't do this and you shouldn't do this and that's too risky. You can't just look at the stars and go, oh shit, there are stars there, I'm going to just look at them exclusively now, because you're drawn to the mud all the time. And it takes work. And people, it's what infuriates me on social media. It's these little sound bites with no depth and no context that say, well, just choose to be happy then. I mean, Jesus, there'd be no one in the world on antidepressants if you could just choose to be happy, right?
It also doesn't happen, even when you do that and do some action, it takes decades.
Right.
You unwire it all, then you've got to rewire it, then you've got to put it into action.
Yeah. And if you try to do the opposite, this is why, this is probably back to why so many men are struggling. It's because if men think that they can just have a choice to be happy and they're pretending to be happy and deep down they're not,
that's what a lot of people do, though.
Bigger conflict.
That's what a lot of people do. They put on a brave face, they go down the pub, they spend all their wages at the weekend, and then they go on Sunday, they get the Monday blue, and it's just a perpetual cycle, isn't it?
Yeah. So then you think, well, I must be the weird one now because everyone else can choose to be happy and I can't, and what's the point?
What techniques can we offer the audience or guidance? Because when we give advice on mental health or this kind of stuff, I always caveat it and say, this isn't a general rule. It's what's worked for me and it's what's worked for some of my clients. It means the people have got to find their own way. But in terms of dealing with anxious thoughts or feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness, what can we all contribute to give advice on, if you want, around? For me, having a routine has been very helpful to me. Exercise. I know these are quite high level stuff, but even if you're doing a walk, but also meditation has helped me a lot as well. There's 2 or 3 things for me, but I want to delve deeper into that. But you guys offer some advice around. Yeah. So
well. Inner dialogue is a core part of the work that I do and help people to become aware that they have, they have control over their inner dialogue and they don't need to let thoughts run away with them. You just mentioned meditation there, which is a great tool for reducing the inner chatter. The reason why I got into meditation back in the day is that when I was in recruitment and managing staff, I'd get back on a Friday night and I'd sit down in front of the TV with a glass of wine, and I'm like, I can hear my consultant's voice in my head as I'm trying to watch the TV. I'm like, that's not normal. What's going on?
Well, it probably is normal.
It probably is normal. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's normal if you leave it. So I got into meditation and started to realize, okay, well, this is these thoughts, and you can dissolve these thoughts by mindfulness, which you're far more qualified to talk about than me, but Steve. But I know one person we both have shared an interest in is Kristen Neff. and you've read some stuff on crystal meth.
I thought you said crystal meth. I was worried.
Crystal meth. Yeah, don't do that. That's not going to help. That's the next thing. So Kristen Neff talks about there being two voices at part with each other. And if you read The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters, he talks about the chimp versus the human. And if you read Thinking Fast and Slow, it talks about system 1 and system 2. So basically it's acknowledging that you've got two forces as part of you. You've got this emotional, reactive, chimp-based part of your mind.
Of course. Yeah.
Which is always there to react and to protect you, but can go into overdrive at times of stress. And that's when that thinking will turn you, to start to say that, oh no, you can't, don't leave IBM, you won't get another job. If you set your own business up, you'll fail straight away. That's your overreactive, fear-based part of your mind clicking in there.
Okay.
And what Kristen Neff points out is about really acknowledging that you've got this compassionate side of you as well, which is self-loving, which sounds like you've really lent into, Chris, as one of your values, and it's having a good knock-on effect, which is great.
Yeah.
Now, if you can calm that voice down or acknowledge it or work with the chimp and say, okay, yeah, you've just said that my business is going to fail, or you can't leave IBM. Okay, you've had you say reactive, fear-based part of you, which you're there to help me.
Yeah.
But what would the compassionate part of me say, the rational part of me, if I just calmed down and I just did a few breaths or I did a bit of journaling? What would that say? Well, actually, it might say that you can live, you can set a business up that's based around mindfulness because you're great at it, and there's an opportunity to do it. Yeah. And if you tried your hardest, and you worked every single day and researched in your field, you might get to where you want to go. It's speaking, and that would be from what you said before around that more logical part of you coming through. And I think really for the listeners, it's about acknowledging that there's two voices. You're not really either. You're probably more the logical part of you. And actually, the way I explain this to my clients is that the logical, compassionate part of you is almost like an untrained muscle that hasn't been to the gym in a long time.
Yeah.
You need to practice being kind to yourself on a day-to-day basis. And if you do it over time, you'll become strong at it.
I love that. I also would say that one of the techniques I use in that situation is that really true? Is this really true? I kind of treat it almost like as if I'm in a courtroom and I'm quizzing that person and say, well, okay, you made that statement, but where's the evidence of that and that kind of stuff? Because I'm of the belief that the majority of our thoughts aren't necessarily our actual thoughts. I know that Steve, you're quite big on that, and I think you're right. And people were like, "Oh, what?
How you mean they're not facts rather than not thoughts?"
Say again.
You mean most thoughts aren't facts?
What did I say?
You said most thoughts aren't thoughts.
Okay, that's what I meant. Most thoughts aren't our own thoughts. I would suggest, as in they're filtered or indoctrinated in from something or somewhere, and actually the reality of that isn't the reality.
Yeah.
What do you think to that, guys?
Yeah, 100%. It's this. When I say this kind of stuff, makes me sound like a weirdo, but. To say I think, we all go around saying I think this, I think that. Most people aren't thinking. Most people are being thought.
Yeah.
And you can test that. Anyone listening to this can test that.
Yeah.
Just be quiet and allow your mind to think.
It's like a cloud anyway. It goes anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah. And just see what comes up, and you won't know what comes up.
Yeah.
Any sort of random stuff. And it'll be a product of your conditioning. It'll be that repetitive.
But also sometimes this can sound quite weird. Like if you've had a drink or you've eaten some food that can affect your nervous system, or you haven't exercised, you haven't slept properly, all these thoughts and feelings can intensify. Yeah. And then if you don't do that, it's almost like, I think they can be exacerbated, from outside influences anyway, that kind of stuff, right?
This is why the most fundamental thing, and this will be the next weird thing I'm going to say is, if there's one thing you learn in meditation, it's that there's something beyond your thinking mind.
Absolutely right. Yeah, of course.
And you are the awareness that sees these thoughts, whether it's a beautiful, calm voice saying, Chris, you're the most amazing person in the world, or whether it's saying, Chris, you're a piece of shit. That which observes both of those things is really your true essence. And I
without getting too woo, you'll understand this, but I've done something called astral projection. You may have heard that, where I've been driving in my car on the motorway, and I've imagined myself out of my body, and I've watched myself drive the car. People are going to think that's crazy, really? But I think you can step out of your own body and vessel and observe yourself. When you can do that, I think that's the work for me as well. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, but that comes with a massive benefit. Like I remember a real aha moment for me. Yeah. I was watching this great mindfulness teacher guy called John Kabat-Zinn. And he was talking about anxiety, depression, really strong, heavy emotions. And he said this thing like, if we're all agreed that fundamentally we're the awareness beyond the thought. So we're the awareness of our experience rather than these things. Like everything else is transient, right?
Yeah.
The job comes and goes. You're called Chris, but that's not your identity either.
Yes.
Your job can't be
I've
your
seen that
identity.
stuff.
Possessions can't be your identity. So there's one thing that holds true for you always. And if you, the great thing that John Kabat-Zinn said was, he said, awareness of anxiety isn't anxious. Awareness of fear isn't scared.
Yeah.
And if you can tap in,
That's so
the way
true,
you
mate.
tap into that awareness, if you can be that point of awareness, it's a difference.
Yeah.
The analogy I love is like, it's a difference between being out in the middle of a storm getting really, really wet, or being in a house watching the storm.
Well, it's a bit like sometimes people say I'm nervously excited. Like when you go on to do something at stage, you can be nervous, but also you can turn that into excitement as well. So anxious doesn't need to be, oh, I'm shitting myself, I'm shaking. Anxious could be, oh, actually, this is quite a nice feat. I think you can almost manifest
they're pretty
it.
similar, aren't they?
Yeah. And it can be a fine line though, can't it?
Yeah, it can. It can.
On feelings and emotions then, I think I'm going to ask a question I need to answer myself. I can't just ask you questions. You can ask me the same question. I've never even answered this question. It's a long build up to a question, isn't it? Bloody hell.
It'll be good after all.
God, I better ask the question. What really scares you?
That's a good question.
That's a tough question.
That's a tough question. What really scares me? I think for me, it would be, what really scares me is going back to those moments of feeling like, I suppose doing something in a career which just wasn't me, and not being, and we talked about identity. I always felt there was two versions of me.
Right. Yeah.
In the old career.
What type of version?
I thought there was a work Tom and there was an outside of work Tom, and I hated that for a long time, and I was aware of it, but I didn't know what to do with it. So that would probably be my fear of going back to that place. I love the fact that I can just be authentically myself now with, we talked about values before. One of my values is personal development, and I get to live that every single day.
Beautiful.
Because I do that with my clients. It's their personal development.
Nice.
My job is personal development. I have to learn, everything is about learning. So therefore I'm happy. Whereas before, I was kind of in these positions where I wasn't learning anything. It's so frustrating. So yeah, that would be my fear, or my, thing that I don't want to go back to. Yeah.
I think mine's similar. I think mine would be to be lying on my deathbed thinking you never really tried what you wanted to try.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Very similar to me, but carry on.
And that's why I'm really happy doing what I'm doing now, because if I died tomorrow, I'd have loved the last 4 years.
I'd sooner regret something I've done than I haven't done. And I think on that point, I've mentioned this quite a few times, and I'm going to bloody sort it out. I mentioned it on Dion Slater's podcast where I made a commitment to her that I'm going to do it. So I applied for a TED Talk yesterday.
Yeah.
For some reason, I've got this massive phobia of standing on stage, and everyone has said to me, if I did a talk on stage, I'll blow people away. So I'm going to make sure I do that. My fear is not sort of fulfilling my potential in that regard, but also it used to be, for some reason, even though I do my LinkedIn thing, I'm an ex-CEO, and I go into businesses and kick ass to directors, and I can manage that and hold board meetings, be on podcasts, my podcast host, do this kind of stuff. I'm very comfortable sitting down, but the concept of me standing up on stage, being above somebody else, it's just a really bizarre thing, even though I do crave the likes and the comments and the let's be honest. And that tells me I've still got some work to do, but what scares me is just being embarrassed and ridiculed and making a fool of myself for some reason.
But what is so if that's the fear, what's the belief behind that fear?
I love an impromptu coaching session on podcast.
Sorry,
no, I love it. I don't know. It's a good question. Let's unpick me. Let's find out. What is the? I don't know. Is it? Does it stretch back? Does it stretch back to my mum leaving me? Does it stretch back to all the other stuff I've talked about? Maybe there's.
Even if it's irrational, if it's,
I don't know.
What would worst case scenario be, Chris? Would it be going blank? Your brain drops into your ass and you're up in front of a TED Talk and the audience is there, everyone's watching, cameras are on, and you're like...
I think so. It happened to me fairly recently at a client site up in Newcastle where I was their chairman and we're doing this big presentation. The CEO handed it over to me. I was in front of the whole fucking company and I literally just froze. And then I walked out and I got all embarrassed. Right. It was, and it's just like, but then I've been a best man at my own, I've been a best man at my own wedding. No, I've done a speech at my own wedding.
Yeah.
What's the root cause? I think
Tell us more about that Newcastle thing. So how did that end for you? So you walked out.
They understood it, and they just and then afterwards we had lunch, and the word laughs. They just said, "Mate, don't worry, you're a human being," and they're all really cool about it. In fact, I ended up I endeared them because they saw the vulnerability.
So let's push this then.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario has happened for you, and it probably wasn't as bad as you thought, and you almost turned it around.
Yeah.
And I think my good mate Eckhart Tolle, who I watch thousands of hours of, right? He almost says, because people have written into him and said, I'm terrified of public speaking, I'm terrified. And he says, if you name that, I'm not saying start your TED Talk with it, but maybe even before they press record, if you said, I'm really nervous to be up in front of you here
just own it.
All the crowd would be like, oh, thank God, because I'd be too scared to even get up there, Chris.
You're right. Absolutely. Because I think that's actually spot on, because I think where I went wrong as a CEO, I put my suit on and became, like you did, like you did, Tom, I became a different person. And actually, I gave off this stoic, confident individual and take my suit off. I was just like, and I think and that's about authenticity. So when I'm doing the TED Talk, I'm not going to be all polished. I'm probably going to wear jeans and T-shirt and just be myself and be nervous and be myself. Yeah. And that's it. Because that's what people want anyway, right?
Yeah, of course. So, and sometimes that fear may be just, if you actually named the belief, it may be that, for whatever reason, I feel like everybody is going to, abandon me. Right. People are just going to stand up and they're going to leave. And then when you express that and you're like, that's bollocks. That's rubbish.
That would really fit with your childhood, though, wouldn't it?
I think
maybe that is. Maybe that is.
How much do you charge for services? I like this.
Yeah. Send you my details. No, but do you see what I'm saying? So it's not. It's going, okay, I have a fear, but what is the belief behind that fear? Absolutely. The limiting belief. And even if it is a load of rubbish, you just said it to yourself. Well, my fear is that this people are going to walk out and no one's going to be interested. Well, actually, no, that's not the case. Really, is it?
So, have we got any questions we want to ask each other? This is completely free for all. Free for all. You two know each other better than
penalty, extra time, and penalties.
I think we've covered things like. I want to talk about maybe the stigma of. I think you've badged yourself as a life coach. Yeah, I've called myself a life coach in the past, and then for some reason thought that was a bit. I think people. I don't care what people think, but I think the stigma of what I think sometimes the stigma of what we are doing with life coaches in forms or meditation experts or mindfulness or whatever we're doing. I think a lot of people, dismiss us as I think it's such a powerful profession actually that we've got, and I'm very proud of what we do in our own individual rights. But I just wanted to sort of get your thoughts on. There's a lot of people flooding the market claiming to be mindfulness experts or life coaches, and they've just
burnout coaches.
They've read a book or whatever, and that's it. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I had the same reservations actually when I first started, because she's like, who's he to tell me about my life? But the key thing is, I'm a coach. I'm asking questions. I'm not actually telling you about your life at all. Yeah. So I think that's the first misconception. And really, I suppose I'm career and life, and the two go together for me. If you can integrate the two, like we've just said, we were two different people. Yeah. One person in work, one person out of work, and that can't go on. Surely can't go on forever if you're doing something that you're not passionate about, or you're X, Y, Z. So I think from a stigma perspective, from a life coach, I think you could take this one step further, because in America it's a lot more accepted to have a therapist, isn't it?
Yeah,
a lot of people have therapists. It's the norm. Whereas if you said I have a therapist to your family, they go, Christ, is he all right? What's wrong with him? Yeah. And I think that stigma still exists with therapy, and maybe with coaching as well. I still think it's a very new thing. It's very, very rare that I meet somebody or coach somebody who's experienced coaching before.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Steve?
So I've got a massive, almost a paranoia about breaking down stigmas around mindfulness and meditation. I hate the words. I try not. If anyone comes on my mindfulness course, I don't even define these words until week 3, because for me it's all about experience. It doesn't matter. One of my favorite mantras: nobody ever got fit by listening to a talk on fitness. No, and you don't get fit by believing in fitness. So. I do. I know these are translations that have stuck, but for me, I spend so much time. I kind of, without sounding too sort of sycophantic about it, I just want to help people feel better. If you want to call that meditation, if you want to call that mindfulness, that is the tools. Yeah. You don't need to know that. It's like giving somebody a lovely cake and them going, beautiful cake, don't care what was in it, don't care how you made it, but it tasted great. And if I can get people past that, meditation, mindfulness, I don't do that. That's for weirdos. That's like, or that's for soft people or weak people. Once we get past that, everyone's like, Jesus, the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so I'm more paranoid than most about, that's probably my niche, I suppose, is just to try to get these people that otherwise would avoid it or wouldn't even try it.
Yeah.
Just come with me for a little bit and let's just see.
Yeah.
And let's drop the labels. Let's drop all the woo-woo. Let's drop everything else. And we'll just see how it is for you. And if you love it, great.
Yeah, because I think I've noticed your following increase on LinkedIn, Steve, and your posts are getting great traction, and I think your confidence has improved, if I may say so.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the last sort of couple of years. I think you've sort of blossomed in that regard. How's that journey been? What's that been like for you?
I think the biggest thing that happened was, so I came, for most of all my adult working life, I was in IBM. I didn't realize till afterwards how heavy a burden I carried on top of my head. So I was an IBMer, so I'm representing IBM wherever I go.
Right.
And even when I was talking about mindfulness, I'm still talking within IBM.
Okay.
Even if customers are there, still I'm an IBM, and IBMer talks like this, and he's not too cheeky, and he doesn't really swear in it. And then I went from IBM. I did a bit of work for University of Oxford's Mindfulness Centre and taught IBMers, ironically. But then I was representing their brand, which is a very austere, brilliant brand. But I found both brands a little bit limiting, if I'm honest, just because I felt like I couldn't really be me.
Yeah.
And when I just did the work for myself, now I'm out there and I just think, do you know what? I do need to repel people as much as I attract them, because if we're really going to do great things together, it has to work for both of us.
Yeah.
And the freedom of doing that, I think, has come through in my posts. I'm only representing me.
Yeah,
if you love me,
you're not constrained
beautiful. If
now.
you don't, okay.
Yeah. We're all kind of similar ages. I think, Tom, you're probably the youngest. You look the youngest.
Do I? Thank you.
He's 60 now.
Is he?
38 next week.
I still think I've got the better beard, though.
I'm not joining that discussion.
I had to get that in there.
I'm 50 and I still can't grow.
Are you 50? I'm 47. How old? Can't reveal. How old are you?
38.
Fucking hell, I wish I was 38. He's in his prime, isn't he, Steve?
He is.
Yeah.
We're all kind of middle-aged men, apart from you, Tom. Do you ever get thoughts about, I'm 47, but most of the time I feel like 17 in my head. But sometimes, do you feel like, you're behind where you should be? Do you have any of those kind of thoughts? I think men and women have this. But I think sometimes I've kind of stopped thinking like that. But sometimes, sort of approaching 50, you think, God, time's ticking on as well.
You look very good for 47.
I was waiting for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I hear this all the time from people. I feel like I've wasted the last 5 or 10 years, or I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's that time perception when actually they're not. They're completely in control of their time. Yeah. And they've got loads more time to go.
Yeah.
But maybe it's that they're in situations whereby, I suppose, the question was on me, wasn't it? About whether I think I've wasted time. I think the thing for me on time, and maybe you resonate with this story, Chris, is in recruitment, there was this tale that would go when you started, this director retired when they were 40.
Yeah.
You know that one? And everyone was told it, and everyone was like, yeah, I could retire at 40. And for me, I got to a point, I was like, well, what if I want to do work after I'm 40? What do I do after then? Surely that would be boring. And I don't want to be slogging my guts out to a point where I could retire at 40. And clearly I wasn't going to be able to retire at 40 in something that I didn't like doing. So I think, there is that perception of time with, okay, what determines, for me, I suppose me and my wife now believe that we've got jobs where I could coach people until I die. It's a skill that I love to do. It's like maybe cutting someone's hair. You could do that until you die. My wife is an illustrator. She can paint pictures until she, it's something that's in her that she just loves to do. So maybe that's it. Maybe that helps you then feel like, you can just keep going on with your work and have more purpose behind what you're doing.
That's really interesting.
But it's very common what you say there, definitely with people.
Yeah, it happens a lot. What about you on that point, Stu?
So I posted about this on LinkedIn fairly recently. I went from being in my 40s, almost counting the days to retirement, to now thinking, what is retirement? In fact, it's weird because I almost feel semi-retired now. Do you know what I mean?
You're part-timer.
In the gym this morning at 10.
Well, not in terms of the lack of working hours, but in terms of,
I
think this is what I do.
Right. Yeah. You've kind of find your calling almost, haven't you? In a way.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
It feels nice. I mean, I'm working harder than ever. I do work really, really hard. But it doesn't feel like an onerous chore, hard work. It feels like passionate work. And I think you get more energy when you're doing passionate work.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Still got to not overdo it too much. And I still try and take a lot of breaks. And
yeah. So you both got partners, wives, whatever. Did you find that you're able to, you might not want to say this, but that you're able to talk to your other half, or do you talk to friends, or, when you want to open yourself up, is your partner there for you or not? Or do you feel like, because I think men can go to their partners sometimes, but do you have friends that you talk to as well? How does that play out? Because we're all three of us, I think. I'm just an open book. I just tell my story literally for the first person I meet. I'm almost a bit too much, but talk to us about that.
How I talk, yeah. So me and Sean both run our own businesses, and we promote our businesses through social media. So she's got 20,000 followers on Instagram.
Oh, wow, okay.
You can check her out if you want. Sean Alexia Illustrations. She's great, but we both have those kind of, you're working for yourself. So there's not another 5 people doing the same thing that you're doing. And you can go, oh God, how's the market?
Right.
LinkedIn's a bit quiet, so you don't have that. So what we do have is we share that in common, so we can talk to each other about when we're having highs, when we're having lows, and we can share that experience, which is powerful.
That must be really kind of reassuring to have that kind of foundation around you. I think.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have that. I mean, obviously you speak to your mates about certain things, but they don't get it.
Yeah,
because they're not in that world. Which is why it's great to meet you guys today, because we share so much in common around the social side of things. We all work for ourselves, you know, and that comes with its own individual. And most people don't work in this way, do they?
Yeah. No, the reason why I asked that, I think that I always used to say that you don't need anyone to make you happy. No, I think that's true to an extent, but I've now come to a point where I think it's really important that you do have a co-pilot, actually.
And maybe it's just you need somebody to talk to. So, and coming back to the men thing, it's just the not talking thing. It's the I'm going to put a brave face on it. I'm going to deny how I feel.
So you've got neither of you got no qualms about being really open with your other half.
No,
that's good.
Not for me.
And I think if we're talking about the sort of male friends thing as well, I think one of the sad things for me is that probably the guys I know have known the longest, in some ways I'm the least open with.
Seriously, right? Okay.
So I'm probably more open with you, Chris, and when did we meet in the flesh? A year and a half ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Than someone I've been mates with since I was 10 or less. And it's almost like you develop these relationships as a man where, well, I will open up deeply about you because you're going to get it. You're going to get it, and you've kind of suffered similar or greater or lesser to me. And you've got other people that are really great friends, but they're just not going to get it. And that would be the difference between whether I open up to them or not. And maybe I've tested the water a little bit, open up to them, and they don't shut me down, but it just fizzles. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's like a firework that just. Whereas when you meet people like you guys, I think okay, there's this bond here, where we want to talk about it, we can talk about it,
absolutely,
and that's powerful. But it's fairly few and far between in my friends. I mean, if I think about all my mates at IBM, there probably would have been one, that I would have spoken to.
I think, unfortunately, I think we kind of run out of time. I think this has been a very powerful session, not just for the content and the type of topics we discovered, but we've talked about. But I'm hopeful men and women will look at this and think, fuck, okay, it's okay to actually talk about these things, and it's a nice thing to do, and kind of hopefully we can encourage more of these kind of conversations. I can't thank you guys enough. I think it's been absolutely awesome. Have you guys got any closing statements you want to say to the audience about how wonderful you are, or whatever?
I don't know how wonderful I am, but I'm kind of encouraged. And the other thing, I'm mad into sport, so I think the first indication that a man could be vulnerable in sport for me was Gascoigne.
Oh yeah, God, yeah, what a player!
When he cried, and almost every man in the country, whether you're a Spurs fan or not, kind of resonated with that. Okay, that's beautiful. And true. Since then, it's been nice, right? Because so many young kids and young boys look up to these superheroes and the more Tyson Furies and Raheem Sterlings and everything else that come out and go, do you know what? I struggle with this.
Dele Alli.
Yeah.
Dele Alli, that was amazing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm encouraged by that. I don't think we had them. I mean, Gascoigne sticks in my mind so much. That was quite a rare thing then, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
You didn't burst into tears on a football pitch, Christ.
God, that was I think that was, for want of a better term, people underestimate that. What a watershed moment that was actually. Very unusual to see that in a high level sports man.
It was a World Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
So millions of people.
We're so unlucky in that semi-final, weren't we? Unbelievable.
Don't go there.
Anyway,
good point. Conversation. Yeah, I think that the key thing is so my experience with coaching is that people say, I hear this a lot, is that you're not emotionally involved. It's great to talk to you. I can just say this. There's no repercussions. And so I suppose the point is that if you are suffering from mental well-being problems, career problems, life problems, whatever it is, don't think that you're only limited to speaking to your partner or your mates. You're not. You can go and speak to professionals, whether that's a therapist, a counsellor, a coach, whoever it is. Yeah. Because that person is not emotionally involved, but they'll be able to give really good advice and they'll be able to listen to you. That's so true. And you may get to where you want to go quite quickly.
And if anything, you probably feel a bit more freer to do that and less judged, possibly.
100%. And you could go in there and mention your wife or mention your mates, right?
And you can slag them off. Yeah, exactly. If you need to.
Yeah.
What an absolute pleasure. I think we should probably do another one in 6 months or 12 months' time. But
absolutely.
Can't thank you enough, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you.
Chris.